Hello everyone, welcome to the very first video of our channel. In this video, let's see how to insert data into a table in database using C# console application. This insertion is a part of CRUD operations. In CRUD operations, this insertion comes under C creation. We'll see the remaining operations, that is retrieval, updation and deletion in future videos. The creation of this app involves two steps. First is to create a database and table in SQL Server Management Studio and then establish connection to the database from our Visual Studio program and then perform CRUD operations. This is the order in which we are going to perform. First we are going to establish connection and then insertion and then remaining all the operations and then we create a loop through. This is the prep work we have to do. The first thing is to create a DB and table. So let's head over to SSMS. Once SSMS is loaded, I will connect to my server. Let's create a new database. The query to create database is create database, database name. Let's have it as CODB, that is CRUD operations DB in short, and execute the command. So now our database is created. Next, let's switch to that database. If you see our database is changed, so let's create a table. So the command to create table is create table, table name. Next comes the column name. Let's start with ID. Let it be int and primary key. Let's make it as identity 1,1. Let me tell you what is identity. Identity is nothing but the auto increment of the ID column. And how do we increment it? We start from 1 and keep on incremented by 1 by 1. I'll show you how it is done when we insert the data and make it as not null. The next column shall be username. Let it be varchar 50, not null. Next, let's have user age and let it be int and not null. So that's it. This is the query for table creation. Let's execute this command. So now it is created. Let's see what is the structure. This is the command to see what is in the table. Let's execute and see. So this is a structure. We have user ID, username and then user age. So now we have completed our first part, and now let's go over to Visual Studio and create a console application. Always run Visual Studio in administrator mode so that we will have all the access rights. Create a new project. So now Visual Studio is loaded. Now let's go to console application. Click next. Let's name it as CRUD app. Click next. Now we have to select target framework. I'm selecting 5.0. Create. So now our application is successfully created. So the first thing we need to do is create a connection to the server. So for that, let's open Server Explorer. In Server Explorer, this was the old connection. Let me remove it. Let's create a new connection. Here we need to write a server name. My server name is by default dot, so I am writing it. And here I will select my database. CODB is my database. Test connection. Connection succeeded. Click OK. So we have a connection established here. We will come to this later. So let's start programming. So in the prep work, if we see what we need to do, first we need to establish connection. For that, we need to get connection string from database, right? So first, let's create a variable called SQL connection, using which, this is a SQL connection class using which we will connect to the database. I'm creating a variable called SQL connection for this object class. So it is an error because we haven't included it. Show potential fixes. Install system.data.sql client. Let's install that. See, we have system.data.sql client and the error is gone. So now let's create a connection string connection string is equal to, let's add a connection string. So that connection string we already have in our server explorer. Yeah, when you go to the properties here, the connection string is given. Just copy it completely and paste it inside the connection string. So here what this means is data source is my server name, my server is dot, so that is here. This is my database name. So now what we are going to do is establish the connection. Before that, let's create a try catch block, because there are chances that exception might occur. So when the exception occurs, we can catch it and handle it gracefully instead of letting the application crash. So that is the reason why we use try catch block. So this is the exception class and it is the object. So let me console.writeLine. Here I will show my exception message. So that's it. So inside this try block, let's try to establish the connection first. So for that, let's do SQL connection object of this class is equal to new SQL connection, and the parameter for this SQL connection is a connection string. So let's give a connection string here. Once this is done, let's open the connection. So SQL connection dot open, that is what we have to do. This SQL connection is the object connection dot open. Now our connection will be established. So to confirm that, let's write connection established successfully. Okay, so let's run and see whether our connection is getting established successfully. So if you see, the connection is established successfully. So let's close it and let's go further more. Now we are going to do create path in CRUD operations. So let's do that. So the first thing we have to do is write a query. So let's write it. String, let's say insert query. So what this insert query is nothing but a query that we write in SQL, but that we are going to write it in here and pass the object, sorry, pass the variable from user. Okay, so for that, yeah, before creating, we need to get username and user age, if you remember, from our database or for a table console. So string username is equal to will be our output. Before that, let's write console dot write line, enter your name, so that we will store it in here read line method. So what we are going to do is console dot read line. Next we are going to get age, so that will be an int. So it is user age is equal to, before that, let's give the command console dot write line, enter your age. So we will get the age. What is the username? So in C sharp, everything that we get from read line will be a string. So we have, when user enters their age, for example 15, it will be treated as a string, and after getting that we will convert into int. So for that, what we are going to do is int dot pass console dot read line. So what this means is we get it using console.readline and we convert it into int by using int.pass method. So now we have both our parameters for creating our for writing our insertion query. So let's write our query. So this is the query to insert into table. Insert into table name values. Before writing values, we can give parameter also. So that would be username comma user age values. So here is the tricky part. For the time being, I'll remove this thing. So first thing we are going to insert is a string, right? In a string, whatever we do, it will be like whatever we write, it will be written as, let me write insertion query here to make it clear. Insert into details username comma user age values. What would be the string? Let's see, my name is Sri, comma, what is my age? Let's say 10 for example. So this is our values. So in SQL we will use single quotes. Sorry, I forgot that. Okay. So this is how our query that we write in Visual Studio will be internally turned into this query. So before that, so first we will have single quotes and then double quotes, the variable, and then again double quotes and single quotes. So what next is, if you notice here, we will have comma. So let me add comma here, and then next thing that comes up, comma and the double quotes starting for the next one. What is the next thing that is coming is username, right? If you see here, we don't have any quotes, so we can write it like exactly how we do usually. So user age plus, we will quotes the double quote and then close this query and semicolon. So that's it. This is our query. So if we look closely, it is getting translated into insert into details, username, user age, values. This double quotes will be gone. So what will be remaining is single quote, username single quote, comma, user age, and then we can execute this query. So since now we have written the query, now we have to create a class, create an object of a class called SQL command to execute the query. So let me write SQL command. I'm giving it name as insert command, which is equal to new SQL command. The parameters of this command are our insert query, comma. What is the next parameter is our connections, SQL connection we have created, right? So that connection, and then semicolon. So we have created a command. So now let's execute this command. Insert command dot execute non-query. This execute non-query method is used to execute SQL queries that doesn't return any data. For example, creation, updation, and deletion. We cannot use this for retrieval because retrieval returns data, right? So we cannot use that. So for queries that doesn't return any data, we use execute non-query. So once this is successfully completed, let's notify console.writeLine data is successfully inserted into table. Okay, as of now we have this. Okay, so let's run and see. First we have connection established successfully. Next, enter your name. For example, yeah, let's enter the name Leonard. Age, let's give 40. Data is successfully inserted into table and it stops. So let's go into database and see. We got inserted. So if you notice, we didn't give our ID, but it is automatically created. So this is what the first thing, 1 comma 1 is here, right? It starts with 1. So our ID is starting with 1. Let's insert another record and see what happens. Now enter your name. What is your name? Penny. Age 30. Inserted. So if you notice, again we didn't give any ID, but we will have inserted penny and it is incremented as 1 2 like that. So this is why we have used identity. After doing all the database operations, it is best practice to close the connection we have created. So how do we do it is SQL connection object. Let's use that. SQL connection dot close. So this closes the connection we established in the beginning, right? We've created SQL connection dot open. Now we are closing this connection. Thank you for watching this video. In next video, let's see how to retrieve data and update data and deletion in future videos. Thank you.